We are live.
Hey,
Look at that. Totally live, I think.
it's alive.
It's alive. It's alive, and yes. So, before we get into today's topic, Mark, I got a whole bunch of things to tell you.
Okay, I want to know all the things.
All right, here's all the things. First of all, I got a new thing we can do when we get a certain number of likes. So I went to the Complete Strategist, which is a famous, I haven't been there in years. It's a famous place in Manhattan that sells.
Is it? It must be a chain. There's one of them in Boston too.
Oh, well, yeah, there used to be several in New York. In fact, when I first moved to Manhattan, I lived above it. How about that?
Oh wow!
And imagine living
That
above.
must have been convenient for if you wanted to buy those kind of things.
It was deadly. But anyhow, I literally lived right above it. Turned into a store. It was huge too. It was like the biggest game store in Manhattan. It was so good. And I used to hang out there, and then I ended up like hanging out with the guys there. And anyhow, they had the thing about Complete Strategists is they literally have everything. Now, I don't mean everything. Like they have everything. Like you name it. You'll see things there that you've never even heard of, and it's there. It makes It's like Gen Con in store form. But check this out. They had Kid Robot came out with these plastic blind boxes of 13 mini classic monsters. See them?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know what's in it. It's a blind box, and I got two of them. They ain't cheap, $20 each.
Were these the ones that they showed off in that D&D live that were coming out? I think so.
Maybe, but look,
I remember them being $20 each and having classic those monsters.
Here, there's Rust monsters. There's like all the classics. Ropers, Beholders, Fire and Mimics. So if we get a certain number of likes, I'll open one up live. Let's say
there you go.
50 likes, and I'll open one up.
Wow, opening a box like that is
I have
like
no idea what's in it.
It's a genre of YouTube that blows away all of the tabletop RPG commentators by like a factor of tens of thousands.
I can't.
Number of people who want to watch people opening up like an egg or a box and see what's inside of them.
I was like, is he being serious, sarcastic? Actually,
no, I'm absolutely serious.
I know. So I figured. You probably don't want to hear me sing or do a million other things, but opening up a D&D blind box, and I got two of them. I got two. This is going to be more interesting than all that combined. The other thing is, Jewel the Indigo Isle.
Not Jewel. World of Battlezoo Indigo Isles.
World of Battlezoo Indigo Isles. You can sign up now. We're launching mid-July. I'll give you the exact date shortly. I should probably put this in the rotation. If you go there, you can sign up, and we are doing a whole bunch of things. I wanted to address the big thing in the room is like, don't we have two other Kickstarters we're in the middle of finishing up? The answer is yes. One of them, the very first one, is pretty much done. Books are being bound and getting sent here.
It's just the physicals that are being made, right? Like we finished our end of that equation.
It's done. It's ready. I'm literally just waiting for the books. They're coming as fast as possible. Right. They're going to actually shipping. What they do is they airship them to me for approval, and I'm sure they're going to be fine. I've already seen them. I have them right next to me, and then that's it. And then as soon as I get them, I'll send them out. So that one's going to be done. Probably completely done by, I'll say September, because they have to ship out over 1,000, and it's like physically takes a while to physically ship them. So we'll say by September. That one's done. So
and the second Kickstarter, one of the 3 books is out.
Yeah.
The other one is a monthly release, and we're ahead.
And we've never missed.
The number of ones that I've written on those is out to like at least the first pass to November. We don't have 5e conversions of all of those yet. We don't have layouts of all of those yet, but we're ahead on that.
Yeah.
And the last part, Eldamon needs a lot of playtesting, and we would overload our playtesters even if we could produce all of those elements immediately. They wouldn't be able to get through all 13. So really, this is not using the same like type of production as Eldamon is, because we can have someone who is not me write some of the lore. I'll look over it while I'm working on elements and talking to the playtesters. And so it makes sense to make another product like this at the same time as we're getting that playtest through for Alderman.
Yeah, so it's not affecting our it's not affecting our current Kickstarters. That's very important. The other thing that's extremely important, and I've said it, is that we have the book mostly done. The book is pretty much done. It's not totally done, but it's mostly done. There is going to be...
I would say that I think over 70% of it has been written. So far, the main parts that I think are not quite done yet are the Bluebell and Moonshadow Island sections.
Yes. Bluebell is half done.
Okay.
And Moonshadow will be done by the end of the month. And
so it may be more like 80%
like 80.
done now. It's very close towards being completed, and all of the sections that are done have had a design and in-house design and development pass, and some of them Steven's already laid out. So, like, Steven's not going to be able to lay out these Eldamon elements that we're playtesting anyway. So, using his layout on a different thing, it just makes sense so that everybody is kind of doing parts of the process, and we don't have anybody who is idle while I'm with the playtesters. So, I think that it makes a lot of sense to do this particular product in this particular slot, as opposed to like a mechanical design heavy product during this slot would have been kind of that we needed the playtesters to check, would have been using kind of the same people.
Yeah. So this book, a few things. One, it's going to come out right after the Kickstarter is done, within 2 to 3, about 3 weeks really, because it's going to take 2 weeks for them to for Kickstarter to approve everyone and collect money, and then about another week for us to get the questionnaire out. And then as soon as you fill out the questionnaire and you say whether you want a Pathfinder or 5e version, you get the PDF. That's it. That's as fast. It's going to come out, I guess, this September. This September you will have the PDF. And then the books I'm going to send to the printers ahead of time, and I just need to know numbers, and those will get printed, and that's it.
I don't anticipate any reason at the current moment why it would not be ready in September. Even if we hit a lot of stretch goals and have to add a bunch of, I mean, I say have to, but it's part I'm most excited about for this book is adding a lot of islands that the backers, come up with, because it's going to be exciting. Anyone who backs at any tier, I believe, gets to submit an island, and we'll take the best ones based on stretch goals. We'll add them into the book, and I'll write them while working with the ideas that you submitted. Yeah. So even if we get a lot of those, I still don't see any reason why it would possibly go past September.
So the way it's going to work is, we have all the cities; those are all written; those are done. And each city is about 4 pages, at least 4 pages. Some might be smaller, some might be 2, but almost all of them are 4 or bigger.
Rumplank and Seaview are much longer.
Those are much longer.
They're using the gazetteers that are also in the adventure.
Although I changed that. I'm actually doing something. I'm going to try something different. I had an idea literally 30 minutes ago, Mark, on that. So it's going to be similar. It's going to be close to the gazetteer, but maybe with new stuff. I have an idea. So I always have ideas. The dragons. Well,
then maybe we're closer to 70%.
Well,
done.
It might be closer, but it's the same writers.
That are always changing.
It's
Someone
the same
in the
writers.
chat said, "How is this book going to follow Steven's rule of always be escalating?" And Steven, being very serious and correctly talking about it, was like, "Well, they'll always be escalating from our live stream. It's more about an adventure that has a single arc." But the real truth is that the always be escalating is that Steven will always escalate more content into the book after we've decided what it'll be. And it's cool. Like, the content's always good. It adds on more, and you wind up getting more value out of it than we even initially anticipated. It always happens, and it's pretty cool.
Well, it's because I want to because like Rumplank and Seaview are already in some of our other books. So I wanted to make sure it's something, and now Paizo does this. Like, this is not, it's like, because it's hard to always come up with new stuff, especially if we're already doing Indigo Isles, which is already something. And first of all, not everyone, unless you're a DM, you're not getting the Indigo Isles.
You probably don't have the AP.
Yeah, you're not going to get the book. Okay, only Dungeon Masters and GMs are going to get that book. So it makes sense for us to put detailed information.
Even if you are a GM, you might not play the AP. You might want to run it, your home group through it. So it doesn't make sense for two of the most important cities in the entire region to be like have these like these beautiful gazette and lengthy gazetteers that are just kind of secluded in the adventure path and unavailable to the people who want to run it into.
So those will be put in, but I have an idea to make them a little different. And we have dragons, so we have 15 new dragons. I believe it's going to be 20 pages.
Yeah, these are the stats for the wild dragons, which you may remember from Battles of Ancestry's Dragons. You may have been waiting for the monster stats for those. Plus more. And then we have all the new ancestors. It's a lot. There's a lot going to be in here. I think I say 240 pages. It might be a little bit less, might be a little bit more. It's around that. It's going to be around 200-ish pages. And of course, there'll be a 5e version. I think it should be at least 240, but we're not sure.
We're not sure
because Steven's always making adjustments, as you can see.
So by the way, we're almost there. If I had 50 likes and I open up the blind box live on the air, and you guys
and if
can
we get
guess.
to 100, then you'll open the second one.
Maybe we'll do. I just wanted to see. We'll do 50.
Okay.
You know how hard it's been to have these boxes sitting here next to me, and I'm not opening them.
I'm sure it's been very enticing. So.
Yes. Oh, and the other thing about this Kickstarter,
you got too.
The other thing about this Kickstarter,
all I can do is like it once.
Is it's going to be very easy. There's only one product. I won't tell you what it is, but it's going to be. There's literally going to be like.
Okay, they know what the one product is. It's World of Battlezoo Indigo Isles.
Yeah, it's literally going to be. You can get the World of Battlezoo Indigo Isles as a PDF. You get it as a hardcover book. There will be a special edition because I've asked a lot of people, and they want that.
A lot of people want it.
And that's something else we did. So here's the other thing. We've been sending out all those surveys. And one of the things about the survey is that I'm able to find out what people really want. And that's what we're putting in the book, is that it was actually very fascinating using these surveys because, like, I'll use an example. Like, I like magic items and they're cool, but I don't really care that much. Like, there's a lot of magic items and I wasn't sure if, like, is that something people really wanted? And I looked at our survey.
Said that it was not very high.
Not very important.
Or at least not in a world lore book.
No,
that's not where they're looking for them.
Right. So
I think the reason why is that people, when they want items, they kind of want more like generic items that anybody can buy, and they don't want as many specific world lore items, I guess.
So anyhow, my point is that we made sure that we're actually putting stuff in there that you would really want, that you find interesting. So anyhow, with that, looks like we have 52 likes. So, okay, it could be a Zorn, a Mind Flayer, a Red Dragon, a Rust Monster, a Displacer Beast, a Ghoul, Fire Elemental, Beholder, Roper, Mimic, Shogun, Salamander, or Remher, what are they called?
Remoraz. Let's get a Mimic or a Red Dragon because we have those as ancestries.
Well, the rarest is
we don't have the other ones.
Zorn is the rarest.
Oh.
And Fire Elemental and Mimic are the rarest.
Oh, well.
So 1 out of 48.
You're probably not going to get the Mimic then.
Oh, no. So the Zorn is the rarest. Sorry, it's 1 out of 48. Yeah, 1 out of 48 is the Zorn. That's super rare. 2 out of 24 for Mind Flayer, 3 out of 24 for the Dragon, 2 out of 24 for the Rust Monster, 2 for the Displacer, 2 for the Ghoul, 1 out of 24 for the Fire Elemental, 2 out of 24 for the Beholder, 3 out of 24 for the Roper, 1 out of 48 for the Mimic. So Mimic and Zorn are the rarest, and then everything else is 2 out of 24. So here we go. What are we going to get? What do you think we're going to get? What do you think you're going to get? What do you think?
I think we should get a Red Dragon, given how many dragon things we've done in this company. But Mimic would be good too, but it sounds like it's too rare.
They are rare, but that's why they're blind boxes. Okay. I opened it. Like, see, I'm not even going to see. I'm going to do it this way. Here we go.
I can, like, slightly see. Oh, it's actually foil, so
they do that on purpose.
We can't really tell.
I opened the box. I'm done. Right? Is that it? Do I have to unwrap it? How about if I do 100 wraps, 100 likes, and I could unwrap it? Oh, would that be That'd be torture. Oh, here we go.
Look
What
at the
is it?
shape of it. Can you tell what it is from that shape, Steven?
I think it's a dragon.
I mean, that'd be good. That'd be fitting for our brand if you got a dragon. Let's find out. I mean, but Remorazes have a kind of dragon-like shape as well. If you think about it that way.
Oh, you're right. It was a Remoraz.
See? Remorazes have a dragon-like shape.
Okay. Oh, look
There
at
you
that
go.
thing.
The one that's the hardest to pronounce.
Hello. It's actually pretty good quality. Look at that thing. And that will go on the shelf.
There you go.
Check
All right, we
that
now
out.
know what box
Wow,
Steven
this is really good quality. Holy crap, is this good quality? The problem with the shelf, the slopey shelf.
Oh,
Have to
yeah.
move the oh no!
Oh no, Boto.
Boto fell. Oh well. There we go. You can't
All
really
right.
see him. Oh, you can't really see him.
You can see it. It's just it's small, so it's a little harder to see. And hey, that took almost exactly the 15 minutes that you'd like to do
Okay.
before we get really deeply into the topic at hand.
There we go. Okay, 1,000 likes, and I open this now. I got this is actually a good thing. I like these. All right. I'll put this one here. You know what he's next to? He's next to, check this out. I got the minis for, you know who that is? Do you see that?
It's focusing in on it. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I see it. It's definitely is a
Blizzotter.
is a Blizzotter.
Blizzotter.
Yep.
Blizzotter mini, which came out fantastic.
Yeah. I like the little ice crystal detail all up and down. It's pretty cool.
So if we get up to 100 likes, that's it. 100 likes, and I'll open up the second one. I have to go buy more of these now. So the topic for this week, and ask your questions, like, subscribe, please subscribe. I don't know, we don't get a lot of subscriptions, but you should subscribe. And then we will talk about Dungeons and Dragons. So
Yeah.
I have been following this, and so way back when, last year, when I made predictions that they were not going to call it 6th edition, that there was only going to be one version of Dungeons and Dragons, and
That is what you said. That was why we called it Steven's 100% accurate predictions afterwards, because you were like, they're going to try to say that this is an end to editions, that there are no editions anymore, and just what they have right now is just D&D.
yes,
And they'll say that that's eternal. That's what you said, and that's basically how they started. That was how they started branding it with One D&D.
Yeah,
that was why the one was in it for One D&D. So it was on the nose.
Yes, and the problem is that everybody hated it. It was really.
Did you predict that
hated.
everyone wasn't going to like it? Because you predicted what they would do.
I don't remember. I don't
know if you gave a quality assessment. You just said you thought that was what they were going to do because of your knowledge of marketing.
The biggest issue is that whenever you come out with a new version of anything, phone, you name it, it tanks. It'll tank the previous versions. And this is actually very well known. Like, if they come out with 6th edition, that people, not everyone, but people in the know, will not buy. They'll stop buying everything. They'll stop buying adventures. They'll stop buying support modules. It can collapse the ecosystem. So why would they do that? There was no, and especially with the 2.5 year lead time, there was no way they were going to be able to come out with a new version without destroying their ecosystem for several years. Now, Warhammer gets away with this because Warhammer has up to 10th version because they sell minis, and the minis still work, and they just keep changing the rules, and they don't care about the rules. They care about the minis. So it's not apples to apples. It's an apples to oranges comparison. They're not the same. There's no comparison.
Absolutely.
It's not a comparison. So we'll get that out of the way. So
I mean, that makes sense as to why you predicted the initial marketing push as something that was so eerily similar to even being called One D&D that it was startling how close it was to what you predicted.
Even in the announcement, he said there's no additions.
The announcement was exactly what you had said it was going to be.
Yeah.
So then though, the point of this episode is that they kept changing the branding since then.
Yeah.
Like there's been multiple shifts since then. And let me give my like uninitiated into marketing take on those multiple shifts and my guess.
100 likes, and I opened this one. So
and then you can tell me like what the actual reason for it is. So it seems to me that this shift, where they went between One D&D to saying, oh well, it's the 2024 update, and then they're calling it the Fifth Edition 2024 Core, and they're putting Fifth Edition front and center on it. It just seems to me almost like throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. Like they were seeing like negative reactions or buzz to some of the other code names and marketing terms that they were using for it. And as a game designer, I can tell like all these changes don't mean that like the design team at Wizards is like making lots of adjustments to what they were going to do. They probably were doing the same thing no matter what. It seems like it's all marketing, just being like, well, what if we call it this? Then maybe it'll be popular. Wait, we should call it this because we saw how much of an outpouring of support there was for 5e. So we want people to make sure people know that it's 5th edition, which is wild to me because originally with 5th edition, marketing tried to take that 5th edition out of just about every marketing piece. They would just say D&D because they'd be like, this 5th edition thing confuses the issue for people who have heard of Dungeons and Dragons. Let's just call it Dungeons and Dragons. So it's funny that the updated version, which might have been called like a new edition or a 5.5 in previous times, is the first time that they're now, in the current marketing way, actually putting the 5 front and center as if it's a selling point. Instead of hiding it before. So does that feel right? Or is there like a different reason for the changing than just spaghetti at the wall?
It's spaghetti at the wall. It's totally spaghetti at the wall. I mean, the thing about marketing is you don't know. They don't know what they don't know. The best they can do is hope and pray and do best tactics. But in the end of the day, the market dictates. And that's just the way it is, especially in this world. Like in the old days before, I don't know, instant computers and instant gratification and being able to quantify every single thing known to mankind, you just guessed, it's like they just guessed. And, they couldn't really quantify it. Nowadays, they actually have pretty, advanced ways to quantify what's working, what's not working. And I think, from a marketing and brand point of view, they were trying to make it One D&D and literally just say D&D forever. And this way they can come out with a new version or, come out with new versions and it just won't matter. Same way iPhone comes out with a new, like think of it this way, an iPhone comes out with a new iPhone. Okay. Of your older, like your super old iPhones, they don't work obviously, but your newer ones do. And whether you have an iPhone, 12, 13, 14, whatever, it doesn't matter. It still works. And I think they were trying to do that. They're trying to make it okay. It's like, okay, whether you have the 2014 or 2024 version, it works. Okay. And it probably the 2000 version won't work, but it's like within reason, it's going to work. So that's what they were trying to do. And it makes a lot of sense. What I find so fascinating from this whole thing is that I was just looking in all these D&D books. And so it's well known that 5th edition never appears anywhere. In any WoTC books, it just doesn't appear.
Not in any of the branding.
Yeah,
they don't find it. You can find it inside in certain places. It's very hard. They don't use it for branding.
No, it's not part of branding. It's not like on there or anything. The only reason, and someone said this, it's funny because I put out an ad on Facebook and they said, hey, it says 5th edition of what? And I didn't even, like, there's a lot of people who are writing, it's like, it's Dungeons and Dragons, and the person literally didn't know. So you being us, third-party companies can't use the branding or the names Dungeons and Dragons. So that is why you'll use either two terms. So either use the world's most popular role-playing game or fantasy role-playing game, which is code for Dungeons and Dragons, or 5th edition, which has become code for Dungeons and Dragons, and that's what everyone uses. So them not allowing us to use the term Dungeons and Dragons ended up hurting them, because if they let us use the term Dungeons and Dragons, then the One D&D campaign would have actually worked, because then everything would have been branded Dungeons and Dragons. But now every single thing, especially in the large third-party ecosystem, is branded 5th edition, and people were freaking out because it's not going to work with 5th edition.
Oh, interesting. So you're saying that they were trying to hide the term 5th edition,
Correct.
which we clearly saw in their own books,
Yes.
but that they failed due to the fact that third parties were so popular for 5th edition and had to use 5th edition due to their rules. And so it got popular in the zeitgeist in a way that maybe it wouldn't have if they just had created a branded content partner logo that you were allowed to use, like back in the 3rd edition days where there was like a compatible D20 logo that you could use.
Yeah.
That's actually a really interesting idea. I saw some people at chat that were saying that that maybe it was due to the fact that they wanted One D&D branding to go with the OGL adjustments, and that once one of those fell apart, they needed to change the branding, which I'm not sure about, because I feel like the One D&D branding would have been, for all the reasons you predicted, it would have been something that they could have done without needing to adjust the OGL at all.
I mean, so that's really it. It's like 5th edition sort of has become Dungeons and Dragons. And I don't think that was intended. I don't think that was something they wanted to do. It just happened. And now they're stuck. They're kind of stuck. And they, if you notice, and I've been watching all the latest, videos, and they're constantly saying, this works with 5th edition. This works with 5th edition. Our rules are going to work with it. Like, to the point that it's in the titles. They talk about it. It's endless. And now they even called it, what did they call it? They called it like the 2000.
They called it the 2024 Fifth Edition Core Rulebooks.
Oh my God. They're actually putting, I don't think they're putting it in the title.
No, I think that's branding.
They're putting it in the title. They're kind of putting it in the title.
I think that's branding, though, because the actual book will still be called Player's Handbook and Monster Manual and Dungeon Master's Guide. Yeah. But, like, oh yeah, someone also mentioned that Paizo uses world's oldest playing game instead of world's most popular.
Well, you can say whatever you want. You can just call it that RPG you all know that was popular in the 70s. That's what we'll call it. We'll just just say that instead. It's like, dude, you can say anything you want as long as it's not D&D.
5th edition works well enough.
Right. But the point is that they have gotten, and this has happened before. This isn't the first or last time. I mean, this happened to Coke. This happens all the time. It's that it's happened to Xerox. Like, it's like the common terminology that's coined by, people who use the product actually becomes the name of the product more than the name of the product. And in this case, 5th edition has become the name of the product. Oh, we got a whole bunch of people. If we get 100 likes, because it looks like we have 150 viewers, I will open up this
Even we'll
blind
open the second box.
Maybe
we'll get a dragon that time instead of like a Remoraz.
Remoraz. I got a Remoraz, and now I can open it and maybe get something else. I did get a box that's a different weight, so I know it's going to be something different.
Oh yeah, so Iron Chestnut and some people in chat may have missed the latest name change, but the latest change is, as we mentioned just before, the 2024 5th Edition Core Rulebooks, with 5th Edition like very front and center in it.
Yeah.
And some people in chat suggested it might be because of the fact that people who just aren't plugged into it and it's just starting to see the announcement are worried that it's a new edition without like watching their video or anything like that, and that it won't be compatible because you need to kind of read commentary. So I guess that idea from chat kind of makes sense, that having 5th edition in the name will tell even someone with very low like information who just kind of looks at the name that it is intended to be vaguely compatible.
So something that's interesting, and this is what I do. So you wonder what I do, Mark. I'll tell you what I do.
Okay, I do wonder what you do.
I watch those videos and I listen very, very carefully at what they're saying, because they always give away their deep inner thoughts in these videos. And they mentioned that this will be compatible with all the past adventures. They mentioned that.
Yeah, they always mention that adventures in multiple videos. They don't say it's compatible with the...
They never mentioned anything else.
With the rule books.
Yeah,
they just say
about
adventure.
That. They don't care about that. Because that's what they don't care about that. They talk about the adventures because first they sell adventure books. And the thing about the adventure books, I give them credit, is that they are fairly evergreen, is that once you come out with an adventure book, like, Wild Beyond the Witchlight, which they mentioned, by the way, because it's one of their top sellers. In fact, they mentioned, I believe their 3 top seller books were in that video that they mentioned. All 3 of those I know were to their top sellers. So I was laughing. I was like, yeah, that wasn't a coincidence. They named their 3 most popular adventures out there. We could do a chat in 1 second. Is that ties back to the VTT, because they need to sell adventures, and they're going to sell adventures. The rules,
even though adventures never sell as much as like rulebook content, but for the VTT they need to load it with adventures that people want and that people know, and they can have the nostalgia factor, and they're like, oh yeah, this was a cool adventure factor. What
are you going to do? And I told you that's going back once again. I'm going to keep saying it. It's going back to the AI dungeon, not an AI dungeon master, but being able to play it by yourself or with other people.
Right. Having it coded in to do the adventure.
You're not going to need a dungeon master. And that totally makes sense, because then you buy the book and you don't even need to buy the adventure. You subscribe to get the adventure. And they'd rather you do that. Trust me. Yeah, they'd much rather you do that. So Glaive Ribbon super chat. Hasbro's goal: eliminate D&D in print by 2035, 2040, except for HasLab collectors. Yeah, 100%. In fact, as someone who has to deal with the print, I mean, it ain't getting cheaper, and it's only getting more and more expensive. Like, I know people were, it was like, oh, these books are $60 now. You know what? There's still not enough. I'm like, these books really should be $100 each. I mean, easily. And
I mean, some of the Wizards books are getting smaller and are on some of the lower quality print settings and other things like that. But many of the books you buy from like third-party publishers or Paizo that are not getting as small as some of the Wizards books, like, probably should be, in terms of like the cost profit, towards getting the artists and the authors and everyone paid right.
Yeah, I mean, that's the main thing is that it's so expensive. And so, I mean, like, even like our own Kickstarter, it's like we finished the Indigo Isles months ago, and the only thing preventing me from finishing this Kickstarter is getting the physical books, and it just takes a long time to print these books and get them out, and they cost a lot of money. It costs as much to print them as it does to pay the artists and the authors. I mean, it's just a lot of work. And then you gotta house them, and you gotta distribute them, and it's a very different time. It's not. It's just a different time. Like, a lot of people play electronically, and I see that I've seen it. I still think about when Netflix came around, and all my friends were telling me about Netflix, like right when it came out. We're talking like, the 90s. And they were like, oh my God, this thing is amazing. You get stuff, you get your videos in the mail, you get your DVDs in the mail. And I remember I would watch I'd watch their investor meetings, and they kept talking about the reason it's called Netflix is because they wanted to watch and have movies streaming. And I'm thinking, no way. I'm like, what is that going to happen? Now, this is the 90s. So I'm like, how are they going to stream? We couldn't even get, like, everything was dial-up back then. I was like, no way. You can't do video. We can't do that. That's too much. And now, it's like everything's dead. Everything is video and everything is streaming. And I've seen the VTTs go from, something people just talked about, to now something I know everyone who's at least used a VTT at least once, and especially after COVID. And that's the hardest part. That's something else about marketing, is getting people over the hump of trying something out for the first time. And once you get them past that initial stage, it's way easier. And a lot of people are now past that initial stage. Everyone knows how to use Zoom. Everyone knows how to work online. It's becoming very common. Everyone has setups to do it. Everyone has microphones and headphones and computers. It's like, this is not that hard to do. And so everyone has the infrastructure. Everyone is used to it. You're 100% right, is that I expect not just D&D, but everyone to kind of go that way, because it's going to get harder and harder to justify going out and buying a $70 or $80 hardcover book when you can just get the digital version for, 30, 40, $50. I mean, which sounds like a lot, but they still have to charge at least that. And if they're going to print out the books, they're going to just make collector's versions. They're like, okay, we're going to print these books. We're going to print them as nice as possible, and we're going to charge as much as possible. And that way they feel like they can. And that's just the way it's going to be. I mean, it's going to happen. I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just like, you can fight it all you want, but that's a losing battle. And even physically where to store them. It's like, I have a lot of books, and I'm like, I run out of space, and now I'm sure everyone's done this. They have to start culling their books and start culling their libraries, because it's like, I can't keep everything. I want to, but then I look at some of these books I haven't read since high school, and I like to keep them around as memories, but am I ever going to read it again? Probably never, so what do you do? I mean, you do that.
For game books, I reference them while I'm playing. So, yeah. But for other books, yeah, absolutely. I almost never, even my favorite books, I'll display them as a good memory, but I'll almost never read a book series again, because I remember them really well. Compared to other people I talk to, I guess I have like a weird memory for books and stories, which makes it not as fun or interesting to read them again. Maybe decades later, but I'm not so yet old enough that there are a lot of book things that it's been multiple decades since I've read them. And I think you're right, Steven. Things that I use and reference constantly are going to be some of the main ones that I want to have a hard copy of. Just especially in case like the internet goes down or is being spotty and I want to be able to get to that book. But I see a lot of people moving much more towards digital than they had been before.
Yeah, and I had to say that WoTC was ahead of the curve on this, because like they will not release anything on PDF. And in fact, I can see the main reason is for control. So this way they control it, and this way you have to subscribe to their service to get the, it's like, okay, you want to have all the rules, you want to have 50 books. Okay, you can get 50 books for a monthly subscription of $9.99, and you get all the 50 books. But as soon as you you stop that subscription, they go away, which keeps people invested and keeps people, subscribe to the services. And I hate to say it, but I see Paizo and everyone going to this model, not for a while, but it is going to happen. It is going to happen that I see a lot of people who buy our Foundry modules, and that's it. Like, they don't buy the books, and they don't even buy the PDFs. That's it.
I think that there's another reason for that, which is that, like, as someone who hadn't used Foundry modules that much in the past, myself, because I was a player and not a GM, right, for a while, I did not realize what was in our Foundry modules when we were first putting things out, but Foundry modules are almost criminally underpriced for the fact that they contain literally everything. I thought it was just like, oh, it's automized and it's got what you need to run the game. But since it has journal entries that has all of the text, it has everything that's in the PDF plus additional work that's been put in by the Foundry, Foundry people. So, and it often costs equal, or in some of our cases, we gave ones that cost less than the PDF. So, of course, there were people who bought only the Foundry. The main weakness of it being that it's not as transferable as the PDF. And so, like, if you weren't the GM for it in Foundry, you might have to buy, like, multiple of them to make sure all your GMs have it. But other than that, like, it's very convenient. It has a lot of things in it. So I think
it has everything. It literally
has everything but more.
And more. It actually literally
it has all the things from any other version of the book plus additional work. So
everyone else is charging. Everyone I see, mostly Kobold, and a lot of people are starting to charge the same price for the Foundry module that they do the hardcover book. I'm seeing that very common. It's actually, we're probably the only ones that I have the hardcover book, then the PDF, and then the Foundry module. The reason is also a lot of people, I do have bundles where it's cheaper if you buy the PDF and the Foundry module together, because a lot of people are like, don't you get the PDF with the Foundry module? I get that a lot. I'm like, no. It's like they're separate products, and you get the Foundry module, which has everything in it from the PDF. If you want the PDF, you get that. It's separate.
And the bundle is usually a pretty good deal if you want to get
the bundle, which is very popular. A lot of people get the bundle. But the point is, I will say that the amount of people who get physical books, I'd hate to say, it's like it might be 10 or maybe even 20, maybe even more than, probably at least one. So there's 20 electronic versions sold for every physical, easily 20, and which is mind-boggling. I know.
I didn't even think it was that much from at least from the Kickstarters, but you may be talking about the tail.
I'm talking
after
about the tail.
The Kickstarter.
Yeah. Well,
I think that the Kickstarters may be slightly more biased towards the book, but that's because of the demographic of who would kickstart a product.
The other problem is shipping, and I have nothing to do with that. And shipping, since the pandemic, has, much like airline prices, has gotten phenomenally expensive. And people complain, they're like, the shipping is as much as the book. I'm like, I know, I have nothing to do with that. I literally just get quotes. I literally put in, it's literally just a couple of bucks, and I have no control over that. I had no control over that. I wish I did, especially international shipping. By the way, that's on purpose. A lot of these international shippers, what they've been doing in Europe especially, is that, and it makes sense, it's that they don't want things to come from China or the United States. They want them to come within their own country, so they, keep business within their country. So they have huge levies and fines if you're shipping from anywhere except within the EU to the EU. And actually, the toughest and most expensive place for us to ship to is Canada. I've said it many times. Canada is so freaking expensive.
Yeah, because it's double. There's like a double process in it.
It's a double process because it has to be shipped within Canada. So you have to ship it to a warehouse in Canada, then Canada has to ship it to someone.
Yep.
It takes forever.
So I look back at our Kickstarter, and it is true. Kickstarter is a very different demographic because it's actually closer to even for the Kickstarter. It's not even. So, but then, if after the Kickstarter it's 20-1 on PDFs, and like the industry wisdom, which I don't know how accurate it is for us, but the industry wisdom is whatever you make in your Kickstarter, your tail might make a similar amount. Like later on, it might take a while to get it. So that is telling you then if 95% of the tail is PDF, that means 90% of the overall amount. No, wait a minute. That can't be correct. No, it's 95% of 50% plus half of the other 50%. So that would be not 90% of us, but it's almost 3/4. It's like 72% of everything is PDF, even if you have a Kickstarter. And for people who don't Kickstart, it might be more focused towards PDFs than if Kickstarters are more likely to want to get the cool, bigger thing.
Oh yeah, like Kickstarter. I mean, the vast majority of our hardcover sales are at the Kickstarter level. Although we do have a big. That's something else that's new. I mean, I don't know if anyone cares, but we have a big contract we signed with Diamond Distribution, who's like the biggest distributor.
I mean, that's a big deal. Not very many third-party tabletop RPG companies have.
Not even Kobold. No, I have. I'm one of the only people. So all of our books are going to be showing up at Books A Million. They'll be like in Barnes and Nobles. I don't think we're going to be in like Target and those yet, but we are like so the steps are first you just get your books, then you get them. I mean, anyone can sell at Amazon. We're obviously already in Amazon and we sell ourselves. Then you want to get into the actual stores, the actual brick and mortar, the game stores. We're in all of those actually. Oh wait, I got the in fact, this is Game Trade Magazine, and if you look at the bottom, set sail for adventure with Roll for Combat's Jewel of the Indigo Isles Adventure Path. Look at that. We're in the latest Game Trade magazine, which is an article written by one Mark Seifter. 6 pages, no less, we got. Hey, where is it? Look at that. Look at that article. We got an article, and then we got Rumplank in there. Look at that. Exclusive just for the people.
And Game Trade Magazine,
Look at that.
Does not have that many articles per magazine. Cool. It looks thick, but I don't know if you have viewers have seen it, but most of it is like a catalog of all the coolest things that are coming out. So there's not actually that many articles in it. So it's a high percentage of the articles for that issue would have been from us. Yeah, it's funny. I actually got messaged by other publishers saying, "How'd you get your article in Game Trade Magazine?" I'm not going to tell you, but we got an article in there. And now, so that's the next step. So our books are actually sold at, just standard game stores. And then now the next step is you get into like Barnes and Nobles and Books A Million and like those. Now we're going to be in those. And then the final step, and this is the really hard one, is you get into places like Target and Walmart and Kmart. I don't think Kmart exists anymore, but like you get into those. The problem is once you get into those, the orders are insane because they'll order a lot and they have the ability to infinitely return it back to you and make you refund them, which is actually, I have heard for very small publishers, deadly. It's very dangerous because they can get you to print more books than you actually needed, then send a bunch of them back to you in an amount such that it could close you down if you don't do it right. Yeah, we're talking like they will order, like for example, like Barnes and Noble Books A Million, like they might only need like 500 to 1,000 books, and that's it. Right. They don't really need that many, which is, trust me, a lot. It's still risky if you get back a high percentage of that, but not nearly as much as Target and those other ones. Target, they can order 50,000. Yeah. They can order 50,000 if they send back 30 to 40,000 of those, you're done. You're not a big enough company to absorb that. Yeah. And you also have to ship, because you sometimes see, because I go to Target and I see these games and I know, these little board games are selling for like $10-20. And I'm like, how is that possible? Because that means because they maybe get 35% of the money, the company, and then they have to still print it. So I'm like, they're only getting out of that $20, they only get like $6-7 of that. And then they got to print it and ship it. So how do they do that? It's like they're not making that much on it, which again gets me right back to my first point, which is that question. These books are underpriced. Yeah, books are underpriced, and why are we physically selling things? And it's not the same. This is not the same as buying a novel. Okay, novels are $20-30 now, and I'm not underscoring. I'm not. Trust me, they're still expensive. They don't have art in them. They're just words. They have a cover. They have words. They print up 1 million of them. They do paperbacks, which are way cheaper than hardcovers to print up. Like a third or quarter of the price. And then we have to print up big hardcover books, full color, hundreds of pages, glossy paper. Those paperbacks have really cheap paper in them. Yeah. The Barnes and Noble, we probably won't be there till Christmas because they said it takes I just signed with Diamond and it takes 9 months. They said, I'm like, 9 months. I'm like, Jesus, everything takes so slow, freaking long. But yeah, I mean, I guess we're starting to get their stuff they got to get their stuff to their warehouse, which ironically is in New York. 9 months. It's like a baby. It takes that long for but once you're in, it takes, everything takes forever. But they have 2 warehouses, one in Mississippi and one in New York. And I was like, New York? I don't know where they have one in New York. So I got to get it shipped. It's actually a pain in the neck to get them all shipped. Hey, good news, Steven. We have over 100 likes. You get to open the second D&D box. 100 likes.
So yeah, Barnes and Noble's gonna be a while. I'll let you know when it's there because I want to see it too. All right. So we got 100 likes. I only got 2 of these boxes. So 200 likes will be I can open up the Roll for Combat leather dice set and you can see
Isn't
what's
it just
inside.
gonna have dice in it?
Woo! You don't know. It could be anything in there.
You just gave it away.
It could be anything. It's a dice set, but you don't know what's in there. It doesn't have to be dice.
You just opened it.
No, you didn't see.
I saw.
That was black. It was just black.
Yeah, that is what I saw.
But that's the side. See, that's the side.
Oh, okay. I see. It's only the side.
The top is right here. You see, you can't see. You can't see. I'm like, can't see it.
Fair enough.
All right, let's see what's in this one. All right, what do you guys think? Zorn, Mind Flayer, Red Dragon, Rust, Displacer, Ghoul, Fire, Beholder, Roper, Mimic, Shugnug, Salamander.
I'm gonna go for
much lighter.
Red Dragon in this one. Although, like, maybe you wound up with a second Remoraz just so that you
that would suck.
Don't get a variety of things.
I would be angry at you if they did that.
Why would you be angry at me if they did that?
Because it's you. It's your fault. Well, it's not. I can feel. Well, maybe. No, it's something else. All right.
Okay.
Let's see.
You can tell it's a different shape, which means it's not going to be a dragon. It looks kind of more a little rounder. Could it be a beholder?
It is kind of round. Thing.
Let's see what it is. It is not a beholder, but it's the rarest one. It's Mimic.
Mimic is rare. Super rare. 1 in 48 is the Mimic.
That's one of our ancestries. We did it. If only the Remoraz was the red dragon, we would have had both of the Battle Zoo ancestry ones.
Maybe we have to do Remrick as an ancestry for next year. Wow. Although I have to say, it's physically, this was a little disappointing. It's like at least it should have been open, like have a mouth in it or something.
Yeah, I
it's
feel like that. Given that I heard there was going to be a Mimic, this is a little not cool of a Mimic compared to what it could have been. It's just a treasure chest that with like a fist coming out of it.
I'm like, and this is only 1 in 48, the rarest one.
Given that it was going to be rare, I would have hoped it would have had more details.
I know. It's kind of crappy, but I got it.
That's all right.
That's all right. Now all I have to get is the Zorn. That I definitely want. The Zorn looks cool. I mean, you can see the pictures. That's actually what they really look like too. And the Zorn looks really cool.
Fair enough. The Zorn is just like,
oh no, that looks really
with
cool.
Its little hands
up. But these are what we got, and that's exactly what they look like. I mean, they were the Roper would be cool. The Roper and Beholder. Those are the ones I really want. Fire Elemental looks kind of blah too, but all right, $40. Well, $40 well spent.
There we go.
Punch him in the face.
You know what, Steven? You spent it, and you get to keep them forever.
Yeah. So
your chance of getting a Mimic out of the 2 boxes, according to Omen, now was less than the chance of rolling a natural 20 on a single D20 roll. So.
Oh yeah. Well, it's actually worse because you have to keep people buy like you can go through 50 blind boxes and not. I used to. So one of my friends owns a game store, and oh my god, we would go there. And this is like when I'm playing Magic a lot, and they'd get blind box stuff, and sure enough, someone would just buy the whole thing and they'd start opening it, trying to find that one thing, and they wouldn't get it, and they'd go nuts, and then they would start like throwing them all over the store, everything else. It was like, it's like my 5th, whatever, and throwing it. I'm like, it's all over the place. The other one that I have a ton of, you can't see them, but Lego has these blind boxes. But the thing with the Legos is the Legos are actually in the foil paper, and the people who work there are so good at figuring what they are at the Lego store, because I guess they're bored, is that you can go up to the employees and say, hey, I'm looking for the Lego Eskimo who's fishing. I'm looking at one I have right. And they'll say, okay. And then they sit there feeling it until they can actually find like, oh, this is it. And then they give it to you. So they can find any Lego. And my kids would go there and just get them. And I have all of them. I have so many Lego. They're all on my shelves. I have like all these. I just keep them. My kids don't use them, but I have them. I have everywhere. Oh, and they have dot codes embossed on the heat seal. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, I think because they don't want kids to like scrape. It's like they're blind boxes, but they're not really blind boxes. Like this is kind of a blind box. The only thing is, when I got them, I kind of shook them and felt them, and I'm like, okay, these are different weights. So at least I wasn't buying two of the same thing. But it's very hard. I'm sure people have, like, I have one of these scales. I have to measure. I always have to like weigh books and stuff. So I have one of these super duper accurate scales. And I guarantee there's people who like weigh them down to like, zero point 0.01 grams and like, okay, this one is the Mimic. This one is like, it's crazy because then they figure it out, they buy them, and then they sell them on eBay and they get their $20 profit or whatever it is. Anyhow, what were we talking about? Oh, yes, versioning. So, back to versions. Don't forget, like and subscribe, and if you have any questions, super chat, and we'll answer them right away. And don't forget, do check out the Indigo Isles Adventure. Indigo Isles Adventure, do check that out. No, the World of Battle Zoo, Indigo Isles, where you will learn all about, we have new information about the Eld. We have new information about the family. We got dragons, we have ancestries, we have cities, we have NPCs, we have maps, everything. A lot of dragons, though. That's the best part. Oh, anyhow. So back to, wow, we had a big drop off. I guess people do not like the opening of the boxes as much as I thought. Back to the original topic is, so they went from One D&D to 5th edition to, oh my God, please, we promise you it's 5th edition and that this is going to be usable for the next 10 years, which they actually said in their video. Don't go. Please don't stop buying our books, which they basically said. And that all of our past books and everything that's already been released is still going to work with this new version.
They always emphasize adventures, though.
Yeah.
More so.
Yeah, well, because that's all they have. And they're like, don't worry, because it makes sense is that they don't want to have even an update. They don't even want to have like a conversion. They want to just have it. They don't even want to come out with the new version of their adventures. They just want to.
There's enough that's different, though, that it seems kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Like, compare the messaging on this to the messaging from Paizo, which has stayed very consistent. And it has been true that, like, after PaizoCon, when they released how many changes there were, it was like probably a little bit more than the impression I got from when Eric was on the show and he told us about how much there was going to be. But Paizo has been very consistent about the fact that it is a basically a project to remaster and remove OGL content to be safe in case another OGL crisis happens again, and while they're at it, make some quality of life adjustments. Just the degree of the quality of life adjustments was a little bit more than we thought we had heard before, but they've been rock consistent on that. They've done what they've said. They've shown off what they were doing. Whereas I feel like from the updates from Unearthed Arcana for this 2024 5th edition core rulebooks, or whatever they're calling it now, there's some pretty substantial changes in what they're doing, in like what the default becomes with feats and other things like that. While the adventures may be unchanged because you can just still run them, it definitely seems like it's changing a fair amount of other things.
Mm-hmm. Well, they said they said 10 years ish. They were very iffy about the timing, but yeah, at this point, I almost hate to say it. It's like D&D. I always said it's going to become. It's not going to be what it is. Like, they're trying to turn it into a video game. They're trying to turn it into a brand, and I think they basically said,
I think they're just trying to turn it into an electronic product.
Oh, they are.
I wouldn't necessarily call it a video game per se.
Okay, fair enough. But
that's my take on it. I've looked at it. I've heard different takes. I have heard some people say video game, but I think they're trying to make it like an ED&D that is.
They are
at least closer to being in the sense that it is done on a computer. But like, if I run and play Pathfinder on Foundry, is that a video game? I would say probably not.
Not really.
To be fair, by their very own definitions of what was a video game and what was not a video game, when they were trying to shut down on virtual tabletops, maybe it does qualify, because I remember them saying that any animations and sound effects.
Well, that's because they wanted the. Okay, actually, here I'm going to do.
As a video game.
All right, so we do this all the time. I'm going to do this now.
All right.
I'm going to go through. I'm going to be the people. I'm going to be the bigwigs at Hasbro.
Okay. We're doing this the LARP of the Bigwig RPG, and you'll be the bigwigs. Then am I supposed to throw you some challenges?
No, let me go first, and then after, let me give me the overview of what happened up to this point, and then we'll do the role play. But here's what happened: is last year they bought D&D Beyond for 142 million. I think it was 142 million. 142 million dollars. So that they cornered the market on as much VTT electronic stuff as possible. Plus, D&D Beyond was printing money. So that's the first thing. Second thing is they hired several hundred very, very expensive coders. I know some of them. I know people working on this project personally. They won't tell me anything, but I know what they're working on. In fact, they even just had a trip to... They either were about to or went and had a trip to Hasbro and went to WoTC to meet with them in person. How about that? I'll actually see. I haven't spoken to them in a little while. I'll see if they're going to tell me. They won't tell me anything, but they will. They'll tell me that they're allowed to say, but they won't say what they did there. But there was a trip. So I do know that. So they're thinking, look, D&D is severely undermonetized. This should be a multi-billion-dollar brand. And we need to get on to this online platform and turn it into what Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo have done, which is they have become ecosystems. And that's why console wars are over. Microsoft even just said this recently. And that's why these online services are becoming such a big deal, like Xbox Online and stuff, and Steam too. Like, you basically are subscribing to an ecosystem, and what is on there does not matter. It just is an ecosystem, and once you're in it, you will never leave it. It's a big deal, and that has started becoming the new hotness right now. That's why people, Netflix and Disney Plus and all these are just trying to get you onto their platforms, because once you're on them, you'll stay on them. Back to this is that they're thinking, okay, we're going to make everything digital. So the first thing we're going to do is try to get rid of all of our competition. And that was, I don't even know why they did that in retrospect, by having, we'll get rid of all the third party people. I know why they did it. They tried to get rid of everyone so that they were the only game in town, literally. And that if you wanted to play D&D or if you wanted to play ball, everyone had to be on their ecosystem, and they were going to bring all their best people. They were going to bring like the Cobalts and I don't know, wherever the big, third-party manufacturers are, and bring them all online. And then everyone else, they just wanted to go out of business, or they wanted to go in D&D, the D&D marketplace to sell their stuff so they can own it and then get, 30%, 20% profit. So that failed. So OGL 1.2 failed. So next step, fine. Let's try to control the VTT. That failed. Fine. We're not going to get the VTT, and we're not going to get them to get off of the OGL. If anything, we made things worse, because now there's all these like Tales of the Valiant, and all these other people are coming up with their own. So fine, we'll come out with our own version of D&D, and we're going to show everyone the VTT and how awesome it's going to be and how great it's going to be. And we're going to name it One D&D and have its own branding so everyone knows it's D&D. That failed. So they're like, fine. So it's 5th edition, which they don't even like to use. They never use it. We're calling it 5th edition. We're going to call it, it's 5th edition. Don't leave us. So what I really should call it is, it's 5th edition. Please don't stop buying our products. Let us get to at least 2024 when we can get out the VTT and we can start getting you into our ecosystem. We basically only have to last for the next year or two, and then we'll do whatever the heck we want, because once you're in our ecosystem, who cares? We don't care about the rules. We say we do. We don't really care. I know the designers don't want to hear that. I know the writers don't want to hear that. They don't care. They care about the adventures. They care about selling swag. They care about selling add-ons. They care about selling.
I mean, I think anyone who has been in a company that has executives in any industry knows is not so naive as to think that the executives in most companies usually care about the product. Some companies they do. I think that like at Paizo, many of the higher ups actually
of course they
are very passionate about it because it's a smaller company with people who came in from the industry. But when you have executives who come in from being an executive at another company rather than from like organically coming up from the industry, of course they don't care about the product. They care about the company. Like, I don't think that's a wild thing to tell the designers or writers.
No, I know, but I just don't want them to. It's like if any of them are watching, I don't want you to feel bad because it sucks, but it's true. And then once you are in the system, we care
about your product designers and writers, but
like when you're in the system, like here's a good example. I'm going to actually use a very real and good example. Okay. Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. The video game.
Sure.
People out there, what version, don't say it, Mark, what version of Dungeons and Dragons is Baldur's Gate 1 and 2? Some of the best-selling games of all time, ever. These things have sold a lot. Back when games really didn't sell that much. These things were monsters when they came out. What version of D&D is it? My point is,
I think people generally know what version it is,
right?
But
it doesn't matter. Oh, some people said 4.
I guess that at least one person in chat said it was 40. So
someone said
that shows that not everybody knows.
Right,
but
they said
everybody
it's
else
second edition. Someone else wrote second.
Yes, everyone else did say second edition, which is correct.
It is.
Here's the fun part about Baldur's Gate 2, though. So Baldur's Gate 1, just flat out second edition. And you're not wrong to say second edition for Baldur's Gate 2, but Baldur's Gate 2 was second edition with some like weird 3.0 preview stuff because they had seen some things that were being done for third edition. And so they sort of kitbashed some preview content into it because they're like, oh, so this is the sorcerer class from third edition. We'll make like a sorcerer too in Baldur's Gate 2. So it was kind of cool that it had like some like pre-ported stuff from that had been announced for third edition in it.
So Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, yes, they're Dungeons and Dragons made by BioWare, one of the most successful RPGs ever made in history. Unbelievably successful. People still talk about it now. My point is Baldur's Gate 3 is coming out. This thing is going to be an absolute monster. It's going to be one of the best-selling games of the year. It's probably going to easily sell 10 million copies, probably more. WoTC is going to put their full weight behind it as well. They don't even need to because the company that's making it is probably the best isometric video game company designer in the world by far. And it's going to work on consoles. And they've been playtesting this thing for years. Not a year, years. This thing, and it looks, and the story is fantastic. You basically get the tadpole to turn you into a mind flayer in your eye as the protagonist. And then you have to find out how to get that damn thing out of your eye so you don't turn into a mind flayer, and that's the adventure. Everything after that, who knows? I'm like, you got me sold on I mean, can't become a mind flayer. Right. It just starts off like, that's a pretty good hook. I like that.
Here's my hot take on Baldur's Gate, which is that I loved Planescape Torment. And I love Baldur's Gate 2, but I actually think the original Baldur's Gate was kind of boring compared
Baldur's
to the
Gate
other
1
ones.
Sucks.
That's my hot take. I know everyone's like, Baldur's Gate is a seminal piece of RPG history.
When it came out,
I didn't even like it that much at the time.
It was revolutionary.
I had to be convinced to play Baldur's Gate 2, despite the fact that I loved Planescape Torment by a friend who was like, it's not really like Baldur's Gate 1. Try it. And I did, and it was great.
My point is, does anyone know what Baldur's Gate 3 is based off of? Is it based off 5th edition? Is it based off 4th? Is it based off 3rd? Is it based off their own version? I heard it was
based off 5th.
The point is, who cares? Does it matter? No one cares. This is what D&D wants to be in 5 to 10 years.
You mean they want it to be that nobody remembers what things are based off of?
No one cares.
They just know that it has a D&D brand stamped on it.
Correct. They don't care. That's why they're just like, fine, it's Fifth Edition. We don't care. They're just giving up. Like, we'll call it whatever you want. Just buy our products and books. We're going to go to this online system. In 5 years, we don't care. You're going to be playing online. We could change it as much as you want. Why is people buying Baldur's Gate 3? The studio and the adventure. That's
the studio and the Baldur's Gate name.
Yeah,
those are both huge. Even independently, they're huge.
Yeah, I don't care what it's. I don't even know what it's on. I mean, I think it's Fifth. I don't care. I don't care what it's on. It doesn't matter to me.
Some people might actually know what Baldur's Gate is and not even realize that it's D&D.
Yeah, they don't care.
Baldur's Gate is just big enough that there could be some small number of people for whom that is the case.
Right. The point is that they want to become that. They being WoTC. They want to come out with their VTT. They want it to become a system where you go play adventures. That Baldur's Gate 4 is going to come out on that. It's not going to... That you have to buy that and play it through their online system. And on top of that, if you do, then you get all these extra add-ons from the Baldur's Gate series. I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, here's my 100% accurate. Mark, I guarantee that if you own Baldur's Gate 3, when the VTT goes live, that you will get special gear. Like whether it's familiars or armor or something.
In the VTT or in Baldur's Gate 3?
If you own Baldur's
or maybe
Gate 3.
both.
Or both.
Maybe both.
Yeah, or the other way
Crossover.
around. I guarantee it. 100% guarantee it. My point is that if D&D becomes like Baldur's Gate and just becomes a brand name and it's known for being cool and adventures and having fun, and you could play a sorcerer or a wizard. I know I say it's weird. If you play a priest or fighter or barbarian or monk, who cares? Who cares what version? No one's going to care. People are going to laugh at us in 10 years. 10 years, we're going to laugh. People are going to be like, oh, Edition Wars. There's no edition. It's just D&D. That's it. You know,
I don't think if it gets to that point, I don't think they'll even be able to scoff at Edition Wars because they just won't know.
They won't even know what they are
if it gets to that point.
Yeah, won't even be a thing.
They'll be like, "Is that something that happened back in the old days, like those supposed console wars that all the old timers are talking about?"
Yeah, it just won't even be a thing. Like this is what's going to happen. That's why they say, "Oh, it's going to be 5th edition for the next 10 years." Because they don't care. This is going to probably be the last version they come out with, if it's their choice. You like my pronunciation of Baldur's Gate? Why? What do you pronounce it as? Is it not?
I think most people pronounce it Baldur.
Oh,
like
Baldur?
like the Norse deity, but I don't think yours is that different.
I've heard both.
With Baldur and Baldur. They sound pretty similar as opposed to sorcerer and sorcerer.
Sorcerer, because
sorcerer makes me think they're a saucier, and that they should be added to. Because we have those, like, you know, those. Those, yeah, I know. So since we have Orpak or Ulfomancers, they should have sorcerers that serve as their sauciers.
Mark,
what?
You're gonna have to write the sorcerer archetype
for sorcerers.
No,
there you go.
You're gonna do it. I'm gonna make you do it for Indigo Isles.
There we go. Well, I mean, I could do it for Indigo Isles, or I could do it for something else later on. It'll just depend on the timing.
That is pretty funny. Yeah. But the sorcerer. Hey, look, I'm in New Yorker. What do you want from me?
No, it's totally fine.
How do you say it? How do you say sorcerer? It's not.
It's sorcerer, like
sorcerer,
like source.
Source.
How do you say the word source?
Source.
So then just add it, sorcerer.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorcerer. Yeah, whatever. I still like sorcerer. I've heard other people pronounce it like that. I'm not the only one. I can't be the only one.
I haven't really heard it that often from other people, but it just always makes me hungry.
Well, good. So anyhow, that is my role-playing future. That is why all of this stuff with the OGL, all this stuff with VTTs, all this stuff doesn't matter. In the end, it's very sad. I don't think it's going to matter. All they care about, seriously, is they're going to get these books out. Okay? They're doing this play test to keep the people involved, to keep the brand out there, to keep, whether or not they read it, who knows? They probably do. Who knows? It doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter. None of this matters. All they want to do is get the VTT out, get the adventures out, get it so people can play, get it that they press buttons. Do you care if Magic Missile uses the rules for 3rd, 4th, or 5th edition? No. No one will care. No one is going to care. They're going to be like, I press the button and these missiles go out and hit the bad guys. Cool. It's like, yeah, well, you're not rolling. In this edition, you only get 1 missile, but here you're going to get 2 or 3 missiles. But, no one cares. No one cares. No one cares. None of this is going to happen. And it's a depressing future, which means if you want to continue to play tabletop role-playing games the way we play them now, you'll probably have to play Pathfinder or Tales of the Valiant or one of the other million games out there.
I think you'll be able to do it with D&D. You'll just have to get the novelty special edition, which will be the only version.
You'll have to get the old farts edition of D&D.
Yeah, but they won't call it that because they won't want to make you feel bad.
Oh, they might still want you to feel bad, but
they might. They'll call it like the Deluxe Champions edition or something
the Deluxe
like that.
Champions edition, where only the strongest and the best can play.
Yes, only the strongest and the best can play, like in olden times.
Are you gonna be? That's right. Are you gonna be like the knights of old? Like your parents, and play Dungeons and Dragons the way it was meant to be played, at a table with pens and paper and dice? Isn't that weird? Isn't that wacky? It's gonna be so messed up, man. This is all gonna happen too. Do you disagree?
I mean, that feels like the direction they're going. Even if the executives aren't already trying to push it completely that way, which it kind of feels like they are from some of the other movements that they made. I think that the market factors are going to lead them that way. Even if they're like, no, we'll do both things. It'll be like, yeah, but one of those two things is making a ton of money for the company. The other one is not. So, I think you're not wrong, Steven. I think you're right.
But I've been saying this for a long time. So for the last couple of months, I keep saying, I don't understand. I couldn't see the forest or the trees. I couldn't see the overall big picture. I knew it had to do with the VTT, and I knew it had to do with microtransactions. But now, I think, after this, I don't know why, but I think it's all clicked. And strangely, it was Baldur's Gate and seeing these other games. And you know why? Because last week, if you're not into video games, there was a whole bunch. They didn't have E3 anymore. E3's gone. So they had, Jeff Keighley had his own version of E3, and they had hundreds and hundreds of new games coming out this year and next. And I was just watching this, and I kept thinking of how all these games are, first they were trying to do live service, which totally failed, by the way. Actually, Sony's in trouble because all their games are 5 of their next 6 IPs are live service, so they're in trouble. The point is that all these games were this game exclusive to Sony PlayStation 5. And then there was one that there was a ton of games exclusive just to Xbox. And just there's live service, so they have an Xbox subscription service for $10 a month, and every game on there you can play, and it's a freaking great deal because they get A+ games, they get very good games on there. They've actually recently kind of gone a little crappy, but they're starting to get new ones. And I saw that, I'm like, how can I not subscribe to this? It's it's cheaper than buying 2 of these games, and do you really need to keep it? And not only that, these games end up costing $5 after a year anyhow. So you subscribe to the service, you play the game as soon as it comes out, and if you ever get rid of the service and you want to buy that game again, you can for $5. Who cares? because that's what always happens. So the point is, I saw that and I was thinking, okay, that's it. That's the model. That's what D&D is doing. That is what WoTC is doing. They are going to go full ecosystem, and they do not even care what the rules are. They just don't. I hate to say it, they're not going to care. Not in the long run. As long as you can play games on there, as long as you can play adventures, that's all that matters. So, by the way, they say this VTT audience will be small. Wrong. The audience will not be small because of two very simple reasons. One, they're not going to call it a VTT. Okay, we're calling it a VTT. They're going to call it something else. They're going to call it something.
They'll call it like the D&D experience, or no, that's a different thing.
No,
but, they'll call it like the D&D portal,
yeah,
or something like that. It's like take a portal into the magical world of the Forgotten Realms through the D&D portal to bring yourself and your friends into this fantastic setting with all your favorite classic monsters and villains and heroes like Drisgard and
I guarantee it.
It'll be something like that.
Yeah, the first thing they're going to do
is virtual tabletop is a very clunky term.
They're not calling it that.
Is harder for people to get into. Whereas like D&D portal is something that's like, I like portals.
I guarantee that'll be, you're 100% right. I guarantee you're right. They're going to call it. It's going to be like D&D, not Beyond. It'll be like.
But like how Disney is Disney Plus or things like that.
It's going to be like, it's going to have a cool name. The D&D experience. The D&D
I started with D&D experience, but I think that's the name of like...
It's going to start with an X instead of an E.
There you go.
And seriously, because everything's X or plus. So
I think that may be the name of like an expo that they did for D&D though, so they can't reuse it if that's true. But yeah, it could be that. God,
I bet you they do. I bet you it's called D&D Experience. I bet that's my money. And I'll tell you, the only other time I was right is I was talking to Blizzard and they were telling me about how they're building a new MMO. And they were telling me about it. And I said, it sounds like you're making like World of Warcraft. And they all looked at each other and they said, yeah, that's the name. I was like, I got it on the first try.
Wow.
I know, it was funny. I was like, I always remember that. I was like, yeah, I got it. And they said, yeah, and it stands for wow. That's what they said after that.
That's what I said. Wow.
Okay. Well, that's what they did. They said that afterwards.
Response to you, Stephen.
It was funny. I said, yeah, it stands for wow. I was like, yeah, I kind of got that, but yes. Anyhow, wait, what was I going to say? I missed my.
I think
the D&D
people
experience.
in chat were saying that there might not be enough people who are interested in a virtual tabletop, and you were pointing out that they would call it something else.
Second reason, it's going to work on cell phones. That's all you need to know. I hate to break it to you.
They talked specifically about
constantly.
About that
constantly.
They were not sure whether they were going to make sure it worked with streaming, even for when they were talking to the YouTubers. But getting it on your cell phone, they were very confident about that. That was a big point for them. So that means that everybody can just have it on their phone and plug themselves into the D&D portal or experience or whatever.
If you can go on your cell phone and play D&D experience and have your character and do an adventure either by yourself or with your friends with no DM, and then you can level up and do all that fun stuff, and more importantly, you're doing interactive stories, like real stories. Do you think that's going to do well? I can already tell you, yes, it's going to do amazingly well. Okay, cell phone games made $200 billion last year. 200 billion. 1/5 of $1 trillion in 1 year. Okay? That is why they're going on cell phones. They only need to get a fraction of that, and they will make more money than D&D makes in 10 years. Okay? That's all they care about. And more importantly, when you're on the cell phone, okay, think about it right now. They have to make books. They have to print books. They have to get them into the stores and distribution. It has to work in multiple languages. Oh my God, such a pain in the neck. They put it online. Oh, suddenly 8 billion people can now access D&D Beyond or D&D Experience. That's it. That's a heck of a lot easier.
Yep.
Way easier.
And they could also put it in this D&D Experience or D&D Portal or whatever it is as a free app. That what does the free app do?
Oh, it's totally free.
What does this free app do? It lets you just use a few basic models and get on there and play. And maybe you can earn XP in their system by playing a lot of times, and that will help you buy customize some skins a little bit for your characters and get into other things if you earn a lot of them, or you can pay money to access them sooner and get some really cool looking stuff and add Dristord or get more adventures, get that it can be computer run for you or other things like that. Add on the popular Wild Beyond the Witchlight or Curse of Strahd for only this microtransaction. So like the amount of people who will get a free mobile app that's called D&D because they know what D&D is. What is this? Let's see what it is. I think is potentially very high and can include non-role players.
Yeah, with the it's yeah. And then you on top of that, someone said there's a rumor that U.S. player spend has peaked. Is this true? Well, it hasn't happened, so no. I mean, the thing is, video games and video game technologies has always been the redheaded stepchild. If you think the TTRPG and board game community is like besmirched, you ain't seen nothing, because video games make more money than movies and television and music combined. They make more money than just about everything. They're one of the top grossing industries in the world. Is there any video game reporters really anymore? They were all just canned. There was a whole bunch and they were all just canned. No. Is there video game trade magazines really? Not anymore. Is there like it's just a weird industry. It's an industry that is seen as frivolous, as a kid industry, as something
as less prestigious as those smaller grossing industries.
Yeah, it's just not as right. Music, prestigious. Hollywood, television, prestigious. Okay? Like video games, they still haven't quite gotten over, and that's more in America, by the way. That's something else. America, it's still considered, oh, you play video games? You play games? I'm like, you literally are going to go play pickleball or tennis.
It's also wild
softball.
Because some of the narrative writing in video games is like really deep. And people just assume that it's not going to be. I remember specifically reading something that like when The Last of Us became a very popular TV series, and then like some like really snobby TV watching critic is like, video games were hiding that they had good stories like this from us for so long. It's like nothing was hiding. People just assumed that there weren't going to be good narratives or stories in video games with no evidence, because of just that's the way that the industry is viewed.
Yeah, no, it's just seen that way. And right, the difference between game and sport. Someone's yeah, you're right. Like one is a game and one is a sport. The thing is, everyone games, they just don't realize it. Whether they all just do it differently. Anyhow, the point is,
DDB sent a super chat that said that this what they're putting out there may be sounds like an unholy chimera of AAA gaming VTTs and a tabletop RPG.
It is. It is a complete unholy homogenation of.
I mean, they're hiring some very skilled people on the programming front, so it might wind up being a cool chimera that does things well, and at least from their perspective, in a way that gets people to pay a lot of money, but also a lot of people come on who maybe don't pay very much, but just make it have a vibrant ecosystem and have a lot of users and get their brand name more recognized, so that ancillary products like those boxes that Steven just bought stay popular. So like
So,
I could see it as being a successful chimera of those three things. And I mean, unholy, I guess, doesn't mean unsuccessful either.
so they said if WoTC creates this D&D experience, will Paizo make something that will compete with it? Do you think it's worth it to do that?
I think it's going to be tough for any other tabletop RPG company to compete in a way that is like, this is what Wizards should have been doing instead of trying to directly attack other companies and then make everyone angry at them with the OGL. They just do something that's so expensive that no one else can do it and make it a product that is good that people will want.
Yeah, it's
right?
So expensive.
That's their strategy. They have so much money, they could just do that and they can win that way. There was no need for them to go in and punch down when they can just do that. Because even Paizo, with all of Paizo's success, is so much smaller than WoTC that they're like the move that Steven said with the expensive people that they hired. What were you predicting that it would cost to hire the people that they hired for that long? What was your estimate?
Like
I remember
over 100 million.
Over 100 million, right? Paizo's not even close to being able to pay that much, right? And it's not the kind of thing where you can say, oh, well, I'll pay 10% of that much and get something that is 10% of the way. Like, if you don't go almost all the way out there, you will get nothing.
No. I mean, what will end up happening is, this happens in the computer world, is that someone else will come out with some open source video game. We'll call it like a video game engine. Sorry, we'll call it an adventure engine. We'll call it the adventure engine. And there'll be some adventure engine, and that will do something very similar. Like D&D will come out a few years later. Someone will come out with something open source that does the same thing. And then people like Paizo and Cobalt and myself and, will go on to it. That's what's going to happen. And then it'll be part of a larger ecosystem. But they won't be their own thing. And that's kind of what happens with VTTs right now. Like VTTs, like, there's even more. They keep coming out with more and more of them, so, it's just too expensive. And not only that, now it makes more sense, because remember they kept saying, you got to really listen carefully, because remember they kept saying, oh, we're worried about Microsoft and Disney. Like, they were saying that's what they're worried about. They were worried about them because they have ecosystems that already exist. And that's why they said that. They said that because they are worried that they can already take the Xbox Online or PlayStation Play or Disney Plus.
I mean,
and just
everyone knows that Wizards, which is why it was so surprising that they picked numbers that were low enough to punch down at smaller third-party companies that were making things for D&D, because everyone knows that for many years, while other companies are like, we're in the same pool with D&D, who's the big, that D&D is the big gorilla in that pool, but we're in there, and D&D has always been like, we're in the same pool with Blizzard and video game companies. That's all what they've kind of always imagined themselves as being their contemporary. So if they're making this ecosystem, this walled garden, of course they're going to think, oh yeah, our contemporaries are Disney and Microsoft and Meta and all of these other things that they mentioned as the ones that they were more afraid of for when they were doing the OGL change. But that's what they claimed, at least at the end. But then why'd they pick the cutoff dollar amount that was clearly chosen?
Because they were just trying, because they just wanted to.
They also wanted to go after the third-party companies.
They just wanted to get rid of everyone.
If they only wanted Disney, they would have multiplied the cutoff for when they get your giant cut by like 10.
No, because this is what ends up happening. They're in these meetings, and I guarantee you they're in these meetings, and they're talking about this walled garden, and they're doing competitive analysis with their product versus other people who can do it or have it. And that's who they're competing against. They're competing against the Microsofts and the Disneys of the world. And they're looking, because they like these guys literally have these. And if they wanted to ramp up their version of D&D, like say this starts making $1 million, $2 million, I guarantee Disney is going to come out with their version. They will. They just will. And they'll say, okay, now you can play Disney. They already have some Disney. They have this, I forgot what it's called, but they have a very popular Disney MMO, a light MMO that's very popular, that's online. And And so there's all these, they'll just do it. And I guarantee that's what they're looking at. They're looking at, okay, and that's why they say these things, because that's what's in all these meetings. That's why when you listen to them, they're saying what they've been talking about and what they've been thinking. And they don't mention the smaller people because they don't care. And the only reason they were doing that is because they want to get rid of us. They wanted to get rid of everyone, and they wanted to have the playing field as much theirs as possible. And they wanted to own everything. And they probably see it. I've been in these meetings a lot where they see everyone else as cockroaches, as people glamming onto their success, as lamprey eels. Is that what they're called?
Lampreys.
Yeah, where you are just on them and making money off of them.
Or barnacles on the boat's hull.
Right. How dare you? How dare they?
Barnacles that, they slow the boat down, not by much.
Yes.
But that's really not what third-party companies are. The reason for the success of open editions like 5th edition and 3rd. We had a super chat from Nuskavian that mentioned that Demiplane for Pathfinder is kind of a D&D Beyond. I mean, it's made by the people who made the original D&D Beyond, but that still isn't going to be able to compete with whatever this thing is that Wizards is making.
It can't hurt because they're printing money at D&D Beyond. I heard.
Sure,
they're printing money, so it's a good step. I have not used Demiplane yet. Have you?
I have seen demos of it, and what's cool about the demos that I saw is it is an experience like reading the book, except for that it can glom in content from multiple sources and make it look like it all fits together. So for example, if you're I'm an alchemist, it looks like an alchemist class entry from your core rulebook, but it can have the feats and other things from multiple books that you almost as if they had existed in one book together. You wouldn't have known that they actually cobbled it from multiple sources. And so it's if you like reading books more than an Archives of Nethys entry or online database entry, you can, while having it, do that. And I thought that was pretty cool. For me personally, I'm cool with the Archives of Nethys entries, so I would probably do that. But I think the bigger thing is just some people are expecting, what's the D&D Beyond for this system? And the answer is, it's this. Then they're like, great, that's what I'm going to do, because they are used to that ecosystem, so they'll move to the equivalent ecosystem for Pathfinder.
Oh, so someone said, what the heck's Lorcana, and why does it matter? That's another reason Disney's on their line, because for the first time in maybe a long, long time, WoTC is really getting worried because no one has ever been able to even come close to stealing. Actually, that's not true. There was one person who almost beat the Magic the Gathering crown and took it from them, and that was Blizzard and Hearthstone. Very close, but not really. It ended up just helping them in the long run, but it did scare the living hell. It scared the living daylights out of WoTC. I mean, they were very scared when they saw what happened. I was in a car with someone from WoTC. I've told the story before. I'll tell it again. And when this is back in 2014, I think, as that Hearthstone was still in beta, and I said to him, you guys are in trouble. I said, Hearthstone is going to destroy you. And they're like, no way. It's not going to happen. People love Magic. You can't have the same complexity. And I was like, dude. And I knew people in the testing team, and they said there was average spend on a beta playtest was $500 per person on packs and cards that they were going to lose completely when the beta was over. Now, they would get them back in other cards, but the point is, people are spending $500 on a playtest. You are in trouble. And they were. And then they woke up, and then they came out with Arena, and then they started to get very serious with their online, versions of Magic. And they're lucky that Magic managed to continuously be popular, and Hearthstone only helped them instead of hurt them. And now, Lorcana is another new RPG. It's actually designed by the guy who did, I believe it was Hearthstone, one of the Hearthstone guys. I can't remember who. Yeah, Upper Deck sued them. Good luck. They're trying to stop it, because what's happening right now is Lorcana is by far the most pre-ordered item by all the game companies. Like they're buying it by the truckload, and this thing is going to make, we talked about in the past, this thing is going to make a ton of money. It's going to make so much money for Disney. It's going to make so much money for what's it, Ravensgate, or I forgot the company. Ravensburger, yeah, the company who's printing it. And I don't think it's going to hurt Magic, and I don't think it's going to help it either. The only thing saving their bacon is that people are losing their absolute minds for the Lord of the Rings Magic set. That stupid 1-of-1 ring. Oh my God, it's working. Because every day you hear about, so there's 1-of-1, there's that ring. That's only going to come in an English version. And if you find it, first there was a bounty.
The English version is still like in weird runes.
Right? No. But there's right. But you can only find it in the English version of Magic, and only correct. In the very, very super expensive boxes. So somewhere in there is the Willy Wonka ticket. If you find this 1-of-1, first someone offered $250,000, then it was $500,000. Now someone offered $1 million, and I just read someone in Europe offered $2 million bounty for you to get them. If you get that card, they will pay you $2 million. And that's just going to keep going up. So it is literally becoming Willy Wonka. And even I'm like, I might have to buy some of these packs. Yes, your chance of opening it is like 1 in 10 trillion. It's like, because there's only one in the entire world. But can you imagine? I mean, it's going to happen. I doubt it's going to happen soon either. They're going to know exactly when and where. They're going to put it, they're not going to, I guarantee you, they're going to put it somewhere. I know they're probably going to put it. Okay, if I'm being cynical, which I am. Okay, the Magic scene is really, really, really big in the tri-state area. It's also big in a couple of Seattle. It's a couple of areas where it's really big. They will probably put it in a store somewhere where there's major news coverage. I don't think they're going to be putting it like in Mississippi or North Carolina, or Kansas. It's going to be somewhere like, it's going to be in a Seattle or California or tri-state area, New York or Chicago, Florida, somewhere where it's going to have national news coverage. And they are going to be there. They will make sure they have undercover people there watching, that it doesn't go through Amazon. It's not going to be something that's distributed that way. It's going to be distributed physically at in a box at a store. So it's
what, Steven? When you said they were going to have undercover people there watching, like if you had said that to me last year, I would have been like, no way. But now that I know they have Pinkertons literally on their staff as permanent members, they probably will have undercover people there watching. I
guarantee it. Because something like that is worth $2-3 million. They have to watch it to make sure it's protected. And then as soon as that person opens it, they'll come right up to them and say, congratulations. And they'll make a whole spectacle of it. They'll have like a team there. They'll be like, congratulations, you opened it. Let's take some pictures with you. We got the video crew here. We're going to interview you.
Are they going to have like a person who pretends to be from a competitor who offers to buy it out? And so that when you say no, that proves that you're like the true...
I'll give you $2 million for your. No, they won't. But I guarantee
you're it's not going to just be inheritor of the Willy Wonka factory.
It's not going to be opened. You're not going to be in your house in your underwear opening Magic cards. It's not going to be that. It's going to be live. It's going to be somewhere in a store. They're going to have people like in a car.
What if someone
in a van?
Leaves the store with the packs that have it and opens it at home?
Well, that's true, but I have a feeling they might even...
How are they... even if they do have someone watching, how are they going to be able to check that.
Because they'll have live events. They'll do like a draft or something, and then whenever you do the drafts, you have to do it right then and there.
Okay.
Right. So they're going to do
and they'll release it for the draft event or something like that, so they know it'll happen.
Yeah, they're going to know what's going to happen. They're going to know.
That's your cynical take on it. I think that's
not my
possible
cynical
now.
take is that if I was in charge,
yes,
this is what I would do.
You started by saying it was your cynical take. And you know what? I would have said that. I didn't believe it, but now I do. I've seen other things that they've done, and now maybe that is what they'll do.
No, they'll have like a camera crew, and they'll have them in a van, and then as soon as they open, they're going to be like, congratulations, we're from WoTC, we want to document you, and they're going to do the whole thing. They're going to make sure it gets a ton of press. They're going to probably do it right around Christmas, around the holidays. They do it, actually, you want to do it before November. You want to do it somewhere... Let's see. So you don't want to do it. August is the worst time to do it. That's like that. You don't want to do it in August. September's okay, but really somewhere between October and Thanksgiving, or maybe if they're really, it's a little risky to do it then, but you can do it between Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's a little risky to do it then, but you could do it then. So my prediction is between Halloween and Thanksgiving, the One Ring will be discovered in the United States in a store in a major metropolitan area. That is my that is my guess. Let's see
we
if
also
it
had
comes
a
true.
super chat from Mirtos on a previous topic who said that they've used Demiplane. It's nice looking, but is very slow compared to free stuff even.
That's because they just need to optimize it. That can be fixed.
Well, you always say in this show that optimization is the thing that's done last.
Well, for websites, they really shouldn't do it last. I can see why, because they're probably still fooling around with the interface and the JavaScript and everything. So that could take a little while, it could be too heavy, too JavaScript heavy. You're right. For video games, it's done last. Like the VTTs, but for websites, you actually do it at the same time.
Fair enough.
But I can see them fixing that. That can be fixed. It's just a pain. You kind of don't want to do it last if you can help it, but that's something. I mean, that's what I do for a living. Literally building websites like Demiplane. So, Flesh and Blood. Yeah, Flesh and Blood. I've actually always wanted to try Flesh and Blood. I see it advertised all the time. But back to what I was saying is that set is like going to sell gangbusters. They're going to make a freaking ton of money on that Lord of the Rings set. And what do you think of so I just find this interesting. What do you think, Mark? So they made Aragorn, and if you saw that, dark skinned in the official Magic cards.
Mm-hmm. And I think that was cool. That was an interesting take on it.
People minds.
People just do that. I think that it's fun to have lots of different portrayals of characters so that you can see what the different takes on them are.
Well, not only that, in the books, he's even mentioned as having dark skin. So
certainly don't. They certainly don't mention that his skin is super pale, and they also. A lot of Aragorns that we've seen have had beards when they've said, pretty sure they say he's like clean shaven in the books or something like that. So people don't really care about what they say in the books.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Like, isn't Sam's skin specifically dark in the books?
I think so.
Very specifically stated. And
I'm not like a Tolkien
no one
master.
complained about the fact that Sam is often not portrayed as dark skin. So it's just like, it's a very specific category of people who will make those complaints.
The Lord of the Rings estate had to sign off on every one of those images.
They were in favor of it.
So that's all that matters. And, it's like, look, you know what? It was just fascinating because, okay, I agree with that. But when it comes to changing movies, like, for example, in E.T., so in E.T., this is a big change. In the beginning of the movie, all the FBI agents are holding shotguns. And Steven Spielberg felt that, especially because the movie turned into that was a mistake, and he actually changed it so now that they hold walkie-talkies in the movie. And I was like, really? And not to mention George Lucas, who has changed Star Wars so many times that it is impossible to. There's literally something like 20 versions of Star Wars at this point. There's so many versions. It's out of control. The point is like, I don't mind different portrayals of different characters as different things, but I don't like when finished works are modified.
Yeah, there's a difference between a reboot or a reimagining and when you're just like, I'm just redoing this thing that I've already done before to make this adjustment.
Yeah.
I think those are very different things.
Yeah, because I was just thinking about that. It's like, you know what's also fascinating, back to Star Wars? What was the last movie? What was the ninth Star Wars movie called? I forgot that one.
It was like Rise of the Skywalker.
No.
Like
oh,
that.
sorry, not the ninth. Sorry, the third one.
The third
one.
episode 3 or the third one
episode
that came
3,
out?
Episode 3.
Revenge of the Sith?
Revenge of the Sith. Do you know that there is, and you can find it online, there was an hour of them, of the two Jedis, of Anakin and so Annie and Obi-Wan rescuing someone. And they filmed it, and you can find it, and it's an hour long. They had like 2 hours of extra footage, and it's almost all done. And it was all filmed and even CGI'd. And I'm like, wow, that makes a completely different. It's like not even like a little bit different, completely different movie. And I am very fascinated to see that one. The other thing, if you're interested in seeing alternate versions, Rocky 4, which is Rocky 4 is a weird movie. It's very 80s and it's extremely 80s, but it's a pretty good movie. It's still a pretty good movie. That's where he goes into Russia and fights Drago. Recently, Sylvester Stallone completely re-edited the movie from beginning to end and re-released it, and it's fantastic. It's like, who does that? It's very rare to see that, and I like to see that. I like to see how people over time reimagining their works, and not small edits like taking a putting walkie-talkies in for shotguns. We're talking about, he basically took all the original footage, because when they film these movies, they have like hundreds of extra hours, and he just redid the whole thing. And it's so much better.
Yeah, I mean, like,
it's not like Justice League.
It's
not like Justice League. They're not the same thing.
And retakes and just adjusting the mythology and adding things in. That's just how things have been, even for thousands of years. Like Greek mythology, adding in new characters, try seamlessly into their pantheon, or relatively seamlessly when they come across. Oh, and there's this deity in Cyprus mythology, this Aphrodite. Let's just add her in as a new character to our mythology. Or like Jason Tondro, who works at Wizards on D&D, but used to work at Paizo. Like, his doctoral thesis was about the way that like King Arthur's legend is just like comic book heroes, in terms of the way that like new writers would come in and just change the direction of it and be like, oh yeah, well, we're writers from France, so we created this new knight from France who's the best knight, who's better than all the other knights. And it would always like change and adjust. And comic books, they're kind of like the modern standard bearers, comic book superheroes of those Knights of the Round Table from back in the day.
Rocky 4, Rocky vs. Drago, the Ultimate Director's Cut, and came out in 2021. And it is really much better. It has 42 minutes of new footage. Okay? That's more than half the movie. Okay? That's
a lot.
Yeah. They basically completely rechanged it, and it's a totally different movie. And it's much better. There's the other one that also was original, and I bet you people have seen this and will wonder if they've gone insane. But Aliens has 2 versions, and there's the TV version where you actually, it opens with them on the planet with the settlers, and then they discover something, and then it cuts, and then there's an entire scene where they set up automated sentries with guns and motion sensors to kill the aliens, and you just see the numbers counting down, and it's an extra half hour. So the movie's actually half an hour longer, and it is much worse. It's actually a much worse version because you know it's a very traditional version. Like, you actually see them set up to see the aliens, and then you know what's coming, as opposed to the quote real version where the aliens don't show up until like 40 minutes in. So it builds up a lot of tension, as opposed to you see it within 1 minute. And that's an interesting, because that is shown as the television version, because I guess the length was better. So if you ever watched Aliens on TV and thought, wait, what the heck is going on? Why are all these scenes different? It's because there's two versions of Aliens. I think now it's called the extended version. Is that 42 minutes added or substituted? It's substituted. They actually took out 40 minutes and added 42 new minutes. So it's a completely different version.
2 minutes longer.
By the way, Blade Runner has a lot of versions. I've seen them all. There's no difference. Literally, the difference is, they show a unicorn for 2 seconds. Okay, I'm a big Blade Runner fan. I've seen all the versions. Garbage. That is not.
You watched an entire version only to see a unicorn for 2 seconds?
I saw it in the theater. Okay.
Oh boy.
And I was like, that's it? That's it? So supposedly the unicorn, because then it was a manufactured memory to show that he was a replicant, by the way. That's why they did that. It's stupid. It's like, really? That's why? Like, it was... I love that universe. Oh, they're coming out with a TV show. I'm actually very excited about that. Oh yeah, Aliens. Oh yeah, Aliens was on forever. You know where I saw Aliens? Because I'm weird. You want to add another notch to the weird?
Where did you see Aliens?
I saw it in Alaska.
There you go.
In 1987, and it was in the middle of summer. And we went and I saw it, and then when we came out, it was like midnight or like 12:30 in the morning, and it was still light out because it's freaking Alaska. And I was like, wow, it was so weird. It was like weird. And then I was on a camping trip, and then everyone decided to sleep outside because they wanted to sleep outside where it was still sunny. And we stayed up till like 2 a.m. But I'm like, I'm not sleeping outside. That's stupid. So I slept in the tent, and then at like 4 a.m, I hear everyone running in because it started to rain. So anyhow.
Fair enough.
Do I have a weird life? Is my life weird, Mark?
I mean, probably. So that's our tangent to movies that Steven saw, which came from the Lord of the Rings Magic the Gathering, which came from Lorcana, which came from the main topic, which was about this branding of D&D, which I think we made it most of the way through. Possibly all of the things that I was expecting us to say. And we've covered all of the super chats. What do you think, Steven? Do we have any other pieces of the main topic?
Just that I have a feeling 2024 Fifth Edition Rulebooks. Oh, wait, let me tell you. There's a couple
Core
of things.
Rulebooks.
That they're probably going to change it again. They said that's their code name.
Yeah, it's the branding name. They're obviously not going to write that on the cover. They never were going to write any of these things on the cover. Just like D&D Next is not what they wrote on 5th edition. It was the branding name. So you think there's going to be another branding name before they're done?
Yes.
And what will it be? Or maybe we can't guess because it's spaghetti on the wall.
It'll be DM Core and Player's Handbook 1. You know what? They could be annoying enough that they would call it DM Core instead of GM Core, just to screw with Paizo and to make it that more confusing. Although that probably wouldn't work because
I don't think they're going to do that.
No, it would work the opposite because then everyone would buy the Paizo book.
The actual books they're going to write are going to be Player's Handbook,
Monster Player's
Manual,
Handbook.
and DM Guide.
It's literally going to be...
That's what the books are going to be called. Everyone knows that.
Yep.
They've never tried to say anything different at any time. In fact, they've even almost directly said, oh yeah, the new Dungeon Master's Guide has such and such. So they called it that.
By the way, Battle Beyond the Stars, dude, I've seen that 1,000 times. Roger Corman, and you know who worked on the special effects? James Cameron. That's right. Anyhow, back to try to outmovie me, please. Back to this. Yeah, they're gonna call it. They never changed the name, but the question is, are they gonna have a big old 5e logo right on the cover. Are they gonna fully embrace the 5th edition branding? What do you think, Mark?
I don't know. I mean, they are for this branding, but they might still not for the cover, I think.
I don't know.
I think they'll
might.
brand it because that's important for the current customers, but that in terms of the cover, I think they'll keep it off because they're thinking of the future. And they want to, but they may include some reference to the D&D experience or D&D portal or whatever the thing is, even as prominently as somewhere like on the cover, easy to get to.
What they'll probably do is they probably won't go 5e, but they will say something like Dungeons and Dragons completely compatible, something like, not without being, they're gonna have to be very careful how they word it, but it'll be something like completely compatible with X editions, or they're gonna have to do something to let people know this works with everything. You got to be very careful how they'll figure that out, but it's gonna have something to that effect. Works with all works with all past adventures. That's what we're gonna say. D&D Forever. That's actually not a bad. I would use that over One D&D. The Dungeons and Dragons. Well, yeah, they're not going to change the name because Player's Handbook is one of the top selling books in the history of the world.
The Dungeons and the Dragons.
The Dungeons and the Dragons. Let's see, Sailor Moon. Yeah, well, yeah, Games Workshop is getting rid of editions. They're just giving up on the numbers.
The Good, the Bad, the Dungeons and the Dragons.
The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. One of my favorite movies of all time. Now, I can talk about how that was filmed for a long, long time, but I'm not going to, because spaghetti westerns are fascinating on the way those are made, because everyone who films those movies, no one spoke the same language, and then they would film them and then dub them afterwards into whatever language necessary. It's amazing, those movies.
I mean, the fact that it all worked after all that on a spaghetti western sounds like it might have been sorcery.
Okay, that was. I'll give you a hero point for that one. Give you a hero point. It was sorcery. You're very, very right. By the way, if you have not seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, okay, here's your homework. Go see it. And Mark, have you seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly?
No, but I know what it is. Oh my
god, that is your homework. First of all, make sure you get the version. There's a remastered version. Don't get the old version. It's got like static and no, not that one. Remastered. It's 3 hours long.
Don't I have to also watch A Fistful of Dollars and for a few dollars more?
No. That's
the third one.
No, it's not. That was a made up market. You fell for it. It was a made up marketing scam to make it. It all had the same character, the man with no name, but they're completely different movies. Okay, it's like Jack Ryan. Or it's like any of those type of movies or like James Bond, like same character but just different settings, different adventures. Those two are not near. Those are not even close. Like those are nothing compared to this one. You have to see that movie. It's 3 hours long. It will fly by. And more importantly, when you watch it, because back then there's no CGI, when they start blowing things up, and you're like, how are these people alive? That's what you're going to be saying. Like, how's anyone living through this movie? Because they are crazy. And I don't know. The Man with No Name. It's a trilogy, one character with different unrelated stories. It's not really a trilogy. That was a marketing scam. It had Clint Eastwood and he had no name, and it's like, but you can watch the other two. You don't have to, but just watch they all stand alone. You don't have to watch any of them in any order. It doesn't matter. But that one, not only that, when you watch it, you will better understand films and media because so much copies from it. And in fact, that kind of invented a lot of what happens in movies today. And you're like, wow, this guy literally invented this stuff. And I think as someone who is very interested in mechanics and systems and how things came to be, I think you would like that movie, Mark, because when you see it, you'll be like, oh, like, because you'll be like, that's the first time that happened. Like, Steven Spielberg has also been very popular for that. Like, he's invented things that now are in every type of movie. And by the way, Aliens, back to Aliens, that music that's in that movie, dun, 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 it's in everything now. Everything uses that damn music. That music is in every single damn movie. It is such good music. All right, I think we beat this to death. So here's the thing. I'm going to be at Origins Wednesday through Sunday. Is anyone going to Origins?
Show.
Anyone going to Origins? Raise your hand if you're going to Origins.
Steven, raise your hand, Steven. You're going to Origins.
I'm going to be hanging out with Derek pretty much, I guess, the whole time. I've never been to Origins. I don't know my way around there. I don't know.
Bring him some lemons so that he can eat them for you.
That's true. I'm going to be hanging out mostly with those guys. I have some things on. Just watch it. Watch it. So I was reading the Civil War scene, and the Civil War scene is insane. In Good, Bad, and Ugly. Anyhow, if anyone's going, I'll be there. You can come by, say hi. I don't really have a main schedule. I'm just going to be hanging out. I do find it interesting because the opposite is for Gen Con, because there's about 1,000 Gen Con versions going this year, Mark. And I know every in and out. I know everything there is to know about Gen Con. So I think I'm going to have a whole posse when I go to Gen Con this year. I was already talked to them because I was like, I think, and that one's scary. If you've never been to a gaming convention, or if this is going to be one of your first ones ever, I don't think Gen Con is a good one to go to.
Gen Con can be overwhelming for a new person.
Not only that, the hotels sold out in 2 hours. There's nothing.
I'm super not surprised by that. That always happens.
It's going to be madness this year. Everything. My friend told me, because he drives, he goes to the parking lot. He goes every year. He's like, I always get parking. He's like, Steve, the parking's all sold out. He's like, that's never happened. It's like, I can't.
That one I hadn't heard about the parking selling out.
Yeah, he said he can't find parking. I was like, oh my God, what are you gonna do? He's like, I don't know. He's like, I think he's gonna. It's like everything is selling. I was like, wow, it's gonna be a madhouse this year. So I think I told everyone, just hang out with me. we'll just walk around together, and I can show you everything. Because I also know
liquor posse.
Well, I know where the secret good food is, and you get if you walk off the main area. In fact, I can't take credit. John Stats, you'd like it. He found an authentic Korean bento, not bento, a soup place, it's really good, very authentic, and that's kind of where we go for lunch almost every day, because first of all, no one goes there, and the food is excellent, and it's fast and reasonable, as opposed to waiting a line for 2 hours in those stupid food trucks, and you spend $20 for a crappy little tiny hamburger that sucks, by the way. So bleh. All right. Well, I don't know, maybe I'll do a show on Tuesday. Otherwise, I'm going to try to do something live while I'm there with, I'll see what I can do.
There you go, live from Origins.
I'll see what I can do. If it's maybe you and me, I don't know. I can bring my camera. My camera's very small, and my laptop can handle this. So it's really just how lazy I am and whether I'm going to move
whatever
everything.
You want to do. And if you don't, I will do more writing.
Yeah, that's true. But it might be fun to do it from there.
It could be. And then you could talk about updates and other things that you've seen there.
Yeah, and if I bring my headphones to this mic will work in a loud environment. It's designed to work in football stadiums and sporting events, so it should be fine.
That makes sense.
You think I'm crazy? Derek brings his entire soundboard and mixing studio with him.
So he can just go wah, wah, wah.
And he sits there with if you watch him, he brings everything and then he sets up. So I can just set up with him, and I can just hook up into that.
There you go.
I'll coordinate with him tonight, so we'll figure it out. Cool. Anyhow, check out That's Rocky vs. Drago. First, check out Rocky vs. Drago. No, check out World of Battle Zoo
at Indigo.
Yeah. In fact, there we go. Dun, 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 there we are. Hey, take a look at that. Did you see the new animation that I put up there?
I saw the one at the beginning of the show. Is that different?
It's the same one. Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
That's not the same as last week.
It looked like it was from like the other part of the cover.
Yeah, I actually have a couple of animations. I have, I finally found someone good. They call that 2.5D animation. And I've been trying for years to find someone good. And I finally found someone very good.
You did it.
I did it. He did it. He's good. He's fast. He's reasonable. But anyhow, with that, check it out. Sign up. I promise you're going to like it. It's a guarantee by Mark.
It's a Steven Glicker guarantee.
No, it's a Mark Seifter guarantee.
100% accurate prediction of Steven.
It's a 100% accurate prediction of Mark Seifter, who is never, ever wrong.
I don't know if you're going to like it or not.
He wrote the rules for Pathfinder. Do you like the rules for Pathfinder? You do? Then why won't you like this? Although, I don't think you wrote very little for this book, actually.
The percentage of this book that I wrote is fairly low compared to most of our other products.
Yeah.
I would say
very
that
low. I wrote more than you did for this one.
It depends on if you give yourself credit for the deities that Vanessa wrote, but that you heavily outlined.
I designed them, though. I worked with her on those heavily.
If you say that Vanessa wrote the words so that you don't get credit for that, I did write more because I wrote multiple ancestries as well as a few of the dragons and a few of the other things. But if you
I designed Seaview and Rumplank, and I've been designing all...
Well, Ron wrote the words for Seaview, and Patrick wrote the words for Rumplank.
Yeah, but I designed them with them.
You wrote Kraken, though,
I wrote exactly one... Yeah, I rewrote... Well, no, Paul wrote it. I wrote
fair
most
enough.
of
You
it.
wrote some amount of Kraken before
I
got to Paul,
pretty much, yeah, and then... I gave them free reign on Moonshadow, and
you heavily outlined certain other aspects of it. So, like, it's definitely a very collaborative process with a lot of authors. But when you compare it to, like, Battles of Ancestries Dragons, where I just wrote everything, it's certainly different.
Yeah, you definitely didn't write as much. That's the only problem is I got to figure out who's going to be on the cover, because we actually have something like... There's like 10 authors on this one. So
there are a lot.
There's a lot of authors.
There are too many authors to credit literally every author, so we will have to figure that out.
That's actually a problem, because everyone wrote about the same amount, more or less.
I don't think that's necessarily true, because I think that Vanessa wrote the entire deities, so that's going to be...
Grady and Paul wrote all the
Grady and Paul wrote a lot
cities.
of new geography content. That's clearly going to be more than people who wrote
and Jessica wrote the dragons.
Yeah, she did. Now the amount that is going to be close are something like Jessica's dragons versus Ron's 2 ancestries versus Linda's one ancestry and familiars and companions. Like, those are all going to get a little closer, but the people who did geography and Vanessa on the deities definitely did write more than the other authors by at least a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we'll figure it out.
So
anyhow, just go to indigo.rollforcombat.com. Check that out. I'll figure something out for next week. I don't like to miss a week, and I think it'll be fun. So
it'll be fun.
I can't do it on Wednesday,
happy to
though.
join in.
I can't do it Wednesday because that's when I'm flying in. So
that's flying.
Like
you have to do it on Thursday or Friday. Something.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Take care, everybody. Join us next time.
See ya.